so glad you're here tonight. Take a deep breath, let your shoulders relax and settle gently under your blanket. Perhaps dim the lights or light a small candle nearby. Let the world outside fade softly until it's just you, this quiet moment, and the calm of a story drifting through your mind. Tonight we'll wander together into another time, a time of gaslit streets, steam engines, and lace-draped parlours, the Victorian era. It was an age of great change, when factories roared, novels bloomed, and an empire stretched across the globe. Yet it was also an age of quiet rituals, of tea poured into porcelain cups, of penny sweets clutched by children, of fires burning steadily in small hearths. And as we begin, I wonder, where in the world are you listening from tonight? And what time is it there, in your own calm corner? If this calm journey helps you drift or brings you comfort, you may gently tap like and subscribe, but only if it feels right to you. There is no rush, no demand, just a gentle reminder. Now close your eyes if you wish, let the day dissolve, and come with me as we step softly into the first chapter of the Victorian era. The year is 1837. A young woman of only 18 sits quietly in Buckingham Palace. Her name is Victoria, and she has just become queen. Imagine the weight of that crown, gleaming with jewels, yet heavy with centuries of tradition. Her hand trembles slightly as she signs her first document as monarch, the ink glistening in the candlelight. Outside the palace, London stirs, unaware of just how long and how deeply this reign will shape their lives. The streets of the city hum with familiar sounds. Horses clatter over cobblestones, the wheels of carriages creak and the cries of vendors echo in the fog. Roasted chestnuts sizzle in pans on corners, their smell sweet and smoky. Newsboys shout the day's headlines, their voices rising above the distant hum of factories. Children run past, clutching penny sweets, boiled humbugs, sticks of licorice, small treasures wrapped in crinkle paper. In modest homes, suppers are simple but steady. Families sit close to the fire, eating bread, potatoes, and broth. The glow of the hearth lights their faces as they laugh and talk, finding warmth in togetherness. In wealthier houses, the scene is softer but more polished. Tables gleam with silver spoons, ladies sip tea with sugar cubes melting slowly, sponge cakes rest on plates dusted with powdered sugar. A piano plays faintly in the background, filling the parlour with calm. Beyond the homes, the Industrial Revolution hums. Factories send smoke into the sky, machines spin cotton faster than any hand could, and the railways expand. Imagine boarding a train for the very first time. The whistle loud, the carriage rattling forward, the countryside blurring by. Passengers share bread and meat pies, flasks of tea passed hand to hand. Isn't it soothing to picture how something so new, so modern, was softened by such ordinary rituals of food and company? The Victorian era begins with both grandeur and simplicity, with crowns and carriages, but also with bread, sugar, and laughter by the fire. It is a world of contrast, yet every part hums together like a gentle song. And as lamps are lit across London, their glow faint in the fog, we step softly into this new age, an age that will last for more than 60 years, filled with stories waiting to be told. The early years of Queen Victoria's reign carry with them a sense of anticipation, as though the whole country is holding its breath, waiting to see what kind of age this will be. London grows noisier, factories hum louder, and the railways spread like ribbons of iron across the countryside. Life begins to feel faster, though in homes and markets, the rhythms of daily living remain familiar and steady. Picture a foggy London morning in the 1840s. The streets are damp, cobblestones glistening beneath the wheels of carriages. Chimneys exhale steady trails of smoke into the grey sky. Bakers open their shutters, pulling fresh loaves of bread from ovens. The smell drifts into the streets, warm, yeasty, comforting. Children clutch halfpennies, waiting eagerly for buns still warm in paper wrappers. Isn't it soothing to imagine the steam rising from those loaves into the cool air? In working-class neighbourhoods, meals are plain but filling. A pot of porridge in the morning, perhaps sweetened with treacle. Midday brings bread and cheese, or a potato split open with butter melting slowly into it. By evening, families share a stew of cabbage, onions, and whatever scraps of meat they can spare. Simple, but nourishing. In wealthier homes, dinners are more elaborate: roast meats, puddings rich with cream, fruits shipped from distant colonies. Yet in both cottages and palaces, the kettle always whistles, and tea is poured into waiting cups. Outside of London, the countryside shifts under the weight of change. Where once fields stretched quietly, railways now carve across the land. Imagine sitting on one of those new trains, the whistle shrill, the wheels rattling. Passengers sit close in compartments, sharing sandwiches of cold meat or slices of bread with butter. The scenery rushes past, faster than most have ever travelled before. For many, the taste of bread and tea on a train becomes the taste of modernity itself. But not all is calm. In the dark corners of factories, children work long hours, their meals hurried, crusts of bread, a sip of milk, perhaps a small sweet saved in a pocket. The contrast is sharp, yet it is part of the same Victorian story. While parlours glow with candlelight and puddings, workshops echo with clattering machines and the hunger of young workers. Still, joy finds its place. Penny sweet shops fill with children after long days, glass jars glittering with humbugs, toffees and licorice twists. Street vendors sell hot pies, their crusts golden, their filling thick with gravy. On winter evenings, roasted chestnuts warm cold hands, the smell drifting through fog. Even in hardship, small comforts steady the spirit. Step softly now into an English evening in the 1840s. Gas lamps flicker on, their light pooling gently on wet cobblestones. Families gather around fires, bread sliced, tea poured, laughter rising. Outside, trains rumble in the distance. Ships load goods at the docks. Factories breathe smoke into the night. The Victorian era is young, but its song already hums, part soot, part sweetness, part promise. Isn't it calming to see how even in a time of great change, the simplest rituals carried people through? A loaf of bread, a cup of tea, a fire crackling in the hearth. And so, as the 1840s fade into night, we drift gently onward, ready to step deeper into this age of contrasts and comforts. The Victorian era moves gently into the mid-1840s and 1850s, a time when industry grows stronger, cities swell larger, and daily life takes on both new hardships and new comforts. It is an age of contrasts, of soot and silk, of hunger and abundance, of child workers in mills and gentlemen in velvet parlours. Picture London on a cool morning. The fog rolls thickly along the Thames, its surface rippling under the weight of barges carrying coal and goods. On the banks, vendors set up stalls, arranging fish still glistening with seawater, baskets of apples, loaves of bread wrapped in cloth. The smell of fried eels drifts from a small cart, where a man ladles steaming portions into bowls. Hungry workers line up, eating quickly before returning to their long hours. Isn't it vivid to imagine the steam rising into the mist, the flavour simple but filling? Inside factories, the story is harsher. Workers eat hurried meals, bread clutched in soot-stained hands, mugs of tea gulped in moments stolen between shifts. Children too snatch small bites, crumbs of bread, a boiled potato, perhaps an apple if luck allows. Their laughter is quieter here, their bellies never quite full, yet even in these shadows they find small joys. A sticky toffee bought with a farthing or a crust of bread shared with a friend. Meanwhile, in middle-class homes, meals become symbols of progress. Kitchens bustle with activity, stews simmer on stoves, pies bake in ovens, families gather around polished tables, bowls of soup served first, followed by roasts of beef or lamb, vegetables arranged neatly, and puddings for dessert. A pot of tea always waits, its steam curling into the air like a sigh of comfort. Children sit wide-eyed, dipping biscuits into cups, giggling softly as crumbs scatter on the tablecloth. In wealthier homes, dining becomes an art. Imagine crystal glasses filled with wine, silver spoons gleaming, courses arriving one after another. Fish, roasts, custards, fruits brought from across the empire. Afterward, ladies retire to parlours for tea and cakes, while gentlemen linger over cigars. The glow of gas lamps fills the room, laughter and piano music drifting into the night. But outside those walls, the streets tell a different tale. Vendors sell baked potatoes wrapped in paper, hot pies dripping with gravy, and chestnuts roasted over coals. Penny sweet shops beckon children with jars of boiled sugar, their colours glinting in the dim light. Even the poorest can sometimes afford a taste of sweetness, a humbug or a licorice twist, small treasures that brighten long days. Step softly now into an English evening. The gas lamps flicker along narrow lanes, their glow hazy in the fog. Families sit close in cottages, firelight dancing on walls. A pot of stew bubbles softly, bread is passed, tea is poured. Laughter and stories rise above the hum of the city outside. Isn't it calming to see how, even amid the roar of factories and the weight of hardship, life found its balance in these small, steady rituals? Bread shared, tea poured, warmth gathered around fires. The Victorian world grows larger, louder, and more complicated. But within it, the simple comforts of food, family, and fire carry everyone forward. And so, as the night deepens, we drift onward, ready to step into the heart of the Victorian age, where industry, invention, and society will shine even brighter. By the time the 1850s unfold, the Victorian era is in full stride. London grows louder, factories hum with endless motion, and railways carve across the countryside like veins of iron. Yet beneath the grand movements of history, it is always the small rhythms, the meals, the routines, the quiet gatherings that give the age its steady heartbeat. Picture Hyde Park in 1851. A vast structure of glass and iron rises, the Crystal Palace, built for the Great Exhibition. Inside, treasures of the empire glitter under sunlight. Silks from India, sugar from the Caribbean, gold from Australia, and machines whirring with the force of modern invention. Visitors wander slowly, their voices hushed with awe. They pause at stalls where lemonade is poured into glasses, where biscuits and sweets are offered to curious crowds. Isn't it soothing to imagine the hum of voices beneath that glass ceiling, the taste of sugar on the tongue, the sense of wonder filling the air? In homes across Britain, life continues in familiar patterns. Working families share bowls of stew thick with cabbage and potatoes, bread torn in rough chunks, mugs of tea sipped slowly after long days. Children nibble penny sweets, their sticky hands leaving marks on tablecloths, their laughter echoing even in cramped rooms. In middle-class parlours, meals grow more refined. Families dine on roast beef, puddings with custard, and pies fragrant with apples and cinnamon. The kettle whistles in every home, steam curling upward as cups are filled. Yet not far away in the shadows of factories, the meals are far more meagre. Workers carry cold bread wrapped in cloth, sips of weak tea, perhaps a scrap of cheese if they are fortunate. Children pause at midday for potatoes baked in ashes, their bellies never quite full. Still, small joys persist. A toffee saved in a pocket, a roasted chestnut bought on the way home, a bite of warmth in the chill fog of the city. The railways too change how people eat. Journeys once long and slow become swift and new. Passengers carry sandwiches of meat or cheese, flasks of tea, and fruit wrapped in paper. Vendors at stations sell pies hot from ovens, their crusts golden, their fillings steaming. Imagine sitting in a rattling carriage, a sandwich in hand, the countryside flying past in a blur. Isn't it gentle to think how food became part of this new adventure, binding the strange speed of trains with the familiar comfort of bread? In wealthier households, dinner parties grow ever more elaborate. Imagine long tables glowing with candlelight, courses arriving one by one, soups rich with cream, fish dishes delicate and seasoned, roasts carved with silver knives, puddings soft and sweet. Guests linger, sipping wine, listening to music drifting from a piano. Afterward, ladies move to parlours for tea and delicate cakes, while gentlemen smoke cigars in drawing rooms. The world outside may rumble with industry, but here, time seems to slow, softened by sugar and song. Step softly now into an English evening in the 1850s. The fog curls along cobbled lanes, lamps flicker in the mist. A vendor sells hot pies, their gravy steaming. Families gather in cottages and townhouses alike. Their meals different, but their rituals the same. Bread shared, tea poured, stories told. Isn't it calming to see how, in every corner of society, comfort was always found in these small, steady moments? Whether in a crystal palace filled with wonders, or in a narrow kitchen with a pot of soup, the heart of the Victorian era beats strongest in the quiet of mealtimes. As the 1850s close, the age grows more confident, more complex. The empire expands, industry thrives, but the warmth of daily life remains constant, soft, grounding and enduring. And so we drift onward, ready to step deeper into this age of invention, elegance and endurance. The 1860s sweep in with both grandeur and unease. Queen Victoria has been on the throne for over 2 decades now, and her reign feels steady, almost unshakable. Yet beneath the calm surface of empire and invention, whispers of sorrow, loss, and change ripple through the decade. Picture London on a rainy morning. The cobblestones glisten as horses pull carriages through narrow lanes. Chimneys send smoke curling into the sky, mixing with the drizzle. Vendors call softly from stalls, fresh bread just out of ovens, roasted chestnuts steaming, and hot pies wrapped in paper. A man sips tea from a tin cup, the steam rising gently against the damp air. Isn't it soothing to imagine that warmth spreading through him as the city bustles quietly in the rain? Inside the palace, sorrow lingers. In 1861, Prince Albert, Victoria's beloved husband, passes away. The Queen, clad in black mourning, withdraws from public life. She eats simply, her meals plain and modest compared to the grand feasts of earlier years. Roasts and puddings continue in the halls of nobility, but her own table is quieter, her appetite dimmed by grief. Across Britain, people sense the change, an era of mourning woven into the very heart of the Victorian story. Beyond the palace, life continues with its contrasts. In working homes, families eat stews made from potatoes, onions, and scraps of meat stretched thin. Bread remains the daily anchor, sliced and shared carefully. Tea, though sometimes weak, is still poured faithfully, its warmth steady even in hard times. Children nibble penny sweets, humbugs toffee or licorice, small joys lighting weary evenings. Middle-class families enjoy more variety. Imagine a parlour table with shepherd's pie, vegetables simmered in butter, and rice pudding sweetened with sugar. After supper, the family gathers around the fire. The father reads aloud from Dickens, the mother knits, the children sip milk or cocoa. The outside world may roar with trains and factories, but inside the fire hums, the home glows, and calm reigns. Meanwhile, the Industrial Revolution surges. Trains race faster, factories thrum louder, and meals adapt. Workers carry food in tins, bread and cheese, slices of cold meat, apples or boiled eggs, to eat quickly between shifts. At stations, vendors sell pies and tea, their carts busy with travellers rushing between carriages. Food becomes part of motion, part of the restless rhythm of a changing world. Yet joy also grows in community gatherings. In towns, fairs and markets bring people together. Picture stalls laden with gingerbread, candied nuts, toffee pulled into golden ropes. Children laugh, their hands sticky, their pockets lightened by coins. Families enjoy fish fried in batter, potatoes roasted crisp, and mugs of warm cider. The noise of fiddles and laughter drifts through the evening, a bright counterpoint to the steady hum of industry. Step softly now into an English evening in the 1860s. The lamps glow softly, mist wrapping the streets in silver. A mother sets out bowls of stew, the smell of onions and broth filling the air. A kettle whistles, tea poured into chipped cups. Children chatter as they dip bread into soup, crumbs scattering on the table. The world outside shifts, an empire growing, a queen in mourning. But here, the fire crackles, the tea soothes, and life carries gently onward. Isn't it calming to see how, even in times of grief and change, the small rituals of food and family anchored life? Bread shared, tea poured, stories told. As the 1860s fade, the Victorian era prepares for its height, a time when inventions and empire will shine brighter than ever, even as shadows linger at the edges. And so, we drift onward, carried softly into the next chapter of this age. The 1870s open with the Victorian era at its height. The empire glows red across maps, The railways stretch like veins through countryside and city alike, and the hum of invention seems endless. Yet, beneath all of this grandeur, daily life continues in its steady rhythm of meals, markets, and quiet evenings. Picture London on a bright afternoon. The sun filters through fog, gas lamps stand quietly by day, and shop windows glimmer with goods from across the world. A bakery displays golden loaves stacked neatly, their crusts crisp, the smell rich and warm. Children press noses to glass jars in sweet shops, staring at humbugs, peppermints, and shiny toffees. Outside, a vendor sells fish and chips wrapped in paper, the steam curling into the cool air. Isn't it gentle to imagine how the taste of fried fish and potatoes became a favourite comfort in those bustling streets? In working-class homes, meals are humble but filling. Breakfast may be porridge or bread with dripping, lunch a slice of cheese with a boiled potato, and supper a stew of cabbage, carrots, and scraps of meat. On Sundays, families gather for roasts, perhaps a small joint of beef or lamb, roasted potatoes and gravy, followed by a simple pudding sweetened with treacle. The day feels brighter, the table richer, and the laughter louder. For middle-class families, the table grows more elaborate. Imagine a polished wooden table shining with dishes of roast chicken, vegetables, bread rolls, and custard puddings. The family gathers, each place set neatly with plates, spoons, and glasses. After dinner, tea is served in china cups, biscuits arranged on a tray, and conversation drifts easily in the glow of the fire. The routine feels steady, almost ritualistic, soothing in its order. Meanwhile, in the drawing rooms of the wealthy, dining is almost theatrical. The railways continue to shape meals on the move. Vendors sell meat pies, bread rolls, and cups of tea to passengers. Families pack baskets with sandwiches, boiled eggs, and cakes for journeys. Imagine sitting in a carriage as the countryside blurs past, unwrapping a sandwich of cold roast beef, sipping tea from a flask, your heart caught between the calm of food and the thrill of speed. Isn't it soothing to think how the ordinary taste of bread could steady a world moving so quickly? Street life too hums with flavour. Chestnut sellers warm cold hands with paper bags of roasted nuts. Pie stalls steam on corners, the gravy rich and thick. Children chase after ice cream carts in summer, their cones dripping sweet cream onto cobblestones. For a penny or two, joy becomes something you can taste, no matter how hard the day has been. Step softly now into an English evening of the 1870s. The lamps flicker on as fog curls through the streets. In cottages and townhouses alike, fires glow, kettles whistle, and tables fill with bread, cheese, or stew. A child giggles with sticky fingers after eating a toffee, while parents sip tea slowly, their eyes soft with rest. Outside, the empire hums with power, but inside, the glow of home feels timeless. Isn't it calming to see how, no matter how vast and restless the world became, comfort always returned to these quiet rituals? Bread broken, tea poured, laughter rising. As the 1870s close, the Victorian era shines at its brightest. Yet the years ahead will carry both grandeur and sorrow, invention and loss. Still, through it all, the meals and moments of home will steady life, one sip of tea at a time. The 1880s drift in with a blend of confidence and quiet tension. The empire is vast, the Queen's reign steady, and invention continues to bloom, yet the streets whisper with both pride and restlessness. Still, in kitchens and parlours, the hum of ordinary life carries on, anchored by the soft comforts of bread, tea, and laughter. Picture London on a foggy evening. The gas lamps glow faintly through the mist, their halos soft and golden. Carriages clatter over cobblestones, vendors call from corners, and the scent of roasted chestnuts drifts through the damp air. In narrow lanes, pie sellers lift lids from steaming trays, ladling gravy and meat into crusts as warm as hearths. Children line up with coins clutched tightly, eyes wide at jars of peppermint humbugs and licorice twists. Isn't it calming to imagine those little joys lighting up such grey, chilly streets? In working-class homes, meals remain humble yet grounding. Breakfast might be porridge sweetened with treacle, lunch bread and cheese, and supper a stew of carrots, onions, and whatever scraps of meat could be afforded. On Sundays, the ritual roast still brightens the table. Roast beef or mutton, potatoes browned in dripping, and a pudding to follow. For one day a week, the table feels full and spirits lighter. Middle-class households polish their routines into comfort. Imagine a supper table laid with roast chicken, fresh vegetables, and custard pudding. The kettle whistles as tea is poured into china cups, and biscuits rest neatly on a tray. The family settles into their parlour afterward, the fire crackling, a father reading aloud, children nibbling toffee with quiet smiles. Outside, the city hums, but inside, peace feels steady. Wealthy homes continue to shine with ceremony. Long tables glow with candlelight. Courses arrive in procession, and silver glitters under chandeliers. Guests sample fish, roasts, and delicate sweets, all accompanied by conversation, laughter, and piano notes floating faintly from another room. The grandeur feels endless, yet beneath it is the same comfort found in every home, a meal, a drink, a moment of warmth. Meanwhile, street life carries its own rhythm. Fish and chips wrapped in paper have become a favourite, the steam rising as families share bites on crowded corners. Candy sellers offer sticks of rock and boiled sweets at fairs, the colours catching in the light. On summer days, ice cream carts appear, children rushing forward, their pennies buying cones that melt too quickly in warm hands. Even the poorest find small sweetness, proof that comfort can be tasted even when money is scarce. Inventions of the era continue to shape how people eat. Railways connect towns more closely, and families pack baskets with sandwiches, pies, and boiled eggs for journeys. In cities, cafes grow popular, offering tea, cakes, and sometimes coffee, their hums steady as people pause from the bustle outside. Isn't it soothing to picture a small cafe in the heart of London, the fog pressed against the glass while inside, cups clink softly and cakes are sliced? Step softly into an English evening of the 1880s. Lamps flicker, chimneys smoke, and families gather. A child dips bread into stew, smiling as the warmth spreads through them. Parents sip tea slowly, their eyes closing in quiet relief after long days. Outside, the empire stretches wide and uncertain, but inside, the fire glows, the kettle hums, and peace settles like a blanket. Isn't it gentle to see how, in an age of expansion and pride, the heart of life was still found in the simplest rituals? A loaf of bread, a steaming cup, a laugh shared. As the 1880s fade, the Victorian era moves toward its final decades. Grandeur remains, but shadows begin to stir. Yet still, through every change, the taste of tea and the warmth of family carry the story forward. The 1890s drift in like the final notes of a long and steady song. The Victorian era is in its twilight, yet the grandeur of the age still lingers in every corner of daily life. Factories hum, carriages roll, trains whistle, and parlours glow. But beneath the pride and elegance, whispers of change rustle softly, hinting that this long reign will not last forever. Picture London in 1897, alive with celebration. Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee fills the streets with banners, music, and parades. Crowds gather, waving flags, their hands sticky with toffee apples and paper cones of roasted nuts. Vendors sell lemonade, pies, and sweets from carts, their voices rising above brass bands playing loudly in the air. Isn't it calming to imagine the laughter of children with humbugs in their mouths, the clink of glasses raised in cheer, the steady joy of people gathered together? In working-class homes, meals remain steady, shaped by necessity but softened with care. Breakfast might be porridge sweetened with golden syrup, lunch a slice of bread with cheese or dripping, and supper a stew of cabbage and carrots simmered with scraps of meat. On Sundays, the ritual roast continues. Beef, potatoes, gravy, and pudding bringing a moment of fullness to the table. These simple meals, plain but grounding, hold families together as the world outside shifts. Middle-class families enjoy greater variety. Imagine a dining room where roast chicken is served with vegetables, followed by apple pie or sponge pudding with custard. After dinner, the family gathers in the parlour, tea poured into delicate cups, biscuits neatly stacked on a tray. Children nibble sweets, parents sip slowly, the fire crackles, and the hum of the city outside fades into nothing more than a distant murmur. For the wealthy, the theatre of dining continues at its grandest. Banquets offer soups rich with cream, fish dressed with herbs, roast carved before guests, and desserts layered with cream and fruit. Candles flicker across polished tables, music drifts from pianos, and conversation sparkles like crystal glasses raised in toasts. Yet beneath the glitter lies the same anchor found in every home: the ritual of gathering, the comfort of food, the calm of shared moments. Street life carries its own flavour. Fish and chips wrapped in paper remain a favourite, eaten quickly as steam curls into the cool night. Candy stalls glow with jars of boiled sweets, sticks of rock, and toffee slabs broken into pieces. Ice cream carts still roll through on summer afternoons, children running eagerly with pennies clutched in small fists. Even in the busiest streets, joy lingers in these small edible treasures. Inventions and progress continue to touch meals. Railways bring fresh food more quickly into cities. Cafes offer a steady hum of tea and cakes, and newspapers carry recipes and household tips into kitchens across the land. Families experiment with new flavours while holding fast to old traditions. Isn't it soothing to picture a small kitchen table, a mother setting down a new pudding she learned from a magazine, while her children's laughter fills the room? Step softly now into an English evening in the 1890s. The gas lamps glow, though electric lights begin to appear here and there. A family gathers close around their supper table, bread sliced, tea poured, pudding shared. The children chatter with sticky smiles, parents sigh with quiet relief, and the world outside hums gently on. The empire may be vast, the age may be grand, but in these small rituals life feels steady and timeless. Isn't it calming to see how even at the end of an era, comfort was always found in the warmth of meals, the glow of lamps, the softness of family voices? As the 1890s fade, the Victorian era nears its close. Queen Victoria herself grows older, her reign long and steady, but her time nearly done. The next century waits, filled with new trials and transformations. Yet for now, we rest in the soft glow of the Victorian twilight, where bread, tea, and fire still carry the heart of daily life. The year is 1901, and the long Victorian era approaches its final breath. For more than 60 years, Queen Victoria has reigned, through triumphs, inventions, sorrows, and endless change. Now, as the century itself turns, the age prepares to close gently, like the last embers of a fire glowing before night settles in. Picture London in winter. Fog curls low along the Thames, gas lamps glow faintly in the mist, and carriages still clatter over wet cobblestones. Yet the city feels quieter than before, hushed, as though it knows something is ending. Inside Buckingham Palace, Queen Victoria lies ill. In January she passes away, her long reign complete. Across Britain, bells toll softly, shops shutter, and families pause at their tables. A pot of tea is poured, bread is broken, and conversations fall into whispers. Isn't it calming to imagine how an empire so vast was mourned in the simple silence of kitchens and parlours? In working homes, meals continue their steady rhythm. Porridge warms cold mornings, bread and cheese steady midday hunger, and stews fill bellies at night. Children still find sweetness in humbugs and toffees, their small joys softening the heaviness around them. On Sundays, roast still brighten tables, potatoes crisped golden, pudding steaming, gravy ladled with care. Even as grief hangs over the nation, the warmth of food keeps families anchored. In middle-class homes, mourning takes shape in modest ways. Curtains are drawn, families dress in black, and meals feel quieter, more subdued. Yet bread is sliced, tea is poured, and puddings still rise in ovens. The rituals themselves are comforting, carrying families through sorrow. A father might read the day's news aloud, his voice steady, while children listen, nibbling biscuits dipped into cups. Among the wealthy, the ceremonies of mourning are more elaborate. Black drapes hang over tables, but courses still arrive: soups, roasts, puddings, and fruits. After supper, tea is sipped quietly, conversation hushed, the piano silent in the corner. Grandeur lingers, but grief softens it, making even the most glittering halls feel subdued. Outside, street life continues with gentler tones. Vendors sell pies, roasted chestnuts, and fish and chips, but their voices are softer, their pace slower. Children still rush to sweet shops, though even there jars of humbugs and sticks of licorice seem to carry the weight of the moment. Life does not stop. It cannot. But it does pause, its rhythm gentler than before. Step softly now into an English evening in 1901. The lamps glow faintly, the air is damp and families gather in quiet rooms. A kettle whistles, tea is poured, bread is shared. Laughter is softer now, but it still rises, carrying hope into the night. The Victorian era closes not with a roar, but with a sigh, gentle, steady, enduring. Isn't it soothing to see how the end of such a vast age was marked not only in parades and ceremonies, but in small kitchens and homes, in the soft rituals of tea and bread, in the glow of firelight? As Queen Victoria's reign ends, a new age begins, the Edwardian era, with its own rhythms and stories. But tonight we let the Victorian world rest, its memories woven into every cup of tea, every loaf of bread, every flicker of lamplight. The story of the Victorian era has closed, like a long, calming dream. Yet its echoes remain, steady as the hum of a kettle, soft as the laughter of children with sweets in their hands. By the time the 1860s give way to the 1870s, the Victorian world feels both familiar and restless. The Queen has already reigned for more than 30 years, and her influence stretches across an empire so vast that people say the sun never sets upon it. Yet in the streets, in the kitchens, and at the supper tables, life hums along with the same quiet rhythm of food, family, and ritual. Picture London on a summer evening. The air is warm, though smoke still drifts from chimneys and the faint scent of coal lingers on every breeze. The markets are alive, stalls lined with baskets of apples, plums and cherries, their colours glowing against the grey stones. Bakers sell loaves crusted golden, while vendors fry fish in bubbling oil, wrapping portions with thick chips and sheets of newspaper. Children giggle with sticky fingers, unwrapping peppermint humbugs from paper twists. Isn't it gentle to imagine that moment of sweetness melting on their tongues as the city bustles around them? In working-class homes, suppers remain simple yet hearty. Porridge or bread in the morning, slices of cheese or a baked potato at midday, and stews simmered slowly at night with carrots, onions, and whatever scraps of meat could be spared. On Sundays, the roast still reigns, a chicken or joint of beef, potatoes browned in dripping, and pudding for dessert. For families who laboured long hours in factories, that Sunday roast felt like a festival, a weekly pause where laughter returned to the table. Middle-class families polish their meals into steady routines. Picture a dining room glowing with oil lamps, a polished table set neatly with roast lamb, bowls of green peas, gravy boats filled to the brim, and custard pudding to follow. Afterward, tea is poured into china cups, biscuits arranged in tidy rows, and conversation flows gently. The family may talk of Dickens' latest novel, of the hum of new railways or of politics, but beneath the talk the comfort is always the same: warmth, food, and calm. For the wealthy, meals remain displays of grandeur. Banquets glitter with crystal glasses, silver cutlery, and candles flickering in tall holders. Soups, fish, roasts, puddings, and exotic fruits follow one after another. Guests sip wine as piano music drifts through the air. Yet, even in such splendour, the anchor is the same as in any cottage. Bread broken, tea poured, voices joined together at the table. Beyond the homes, the world itself hums with change. Railways rush faster, factories clatter louder, and telegraphs hum with messages across distances once unimaginable. At train stations, vendors sell pies hot from ovens, their crusts flaking as passengers bite into them. Families carry baskets with sandwiches of cold meat, boiled eggs, and fruit, sharing meals as the countryside flashes past the window. Isn't it soothing to picture such journeys, simple food grounding the thrill of speed? Street life also glows with flavour. Fairs and markets offer gingerbread, candied nuts, and ribbons of toffee pulled golden and sweet. On chilly evenings, roasted chestnuts warm hands, their shells cracking as steam curls upward. In summer, ice cream sellers push carts, their bells chiming, children racing forward with pennies in hand. No matter the wealth or class, small joys could always be found in these edible treasures. Step softly now into an English evening of the 1870s. The lamps glow softly, their halos hazy in the mist. In cottages and townhouses alike, families settle at tables. A bowl of stew is ladled, bread is passed, tea is poured. Children giggle as they dip biscuits into cups, while parents sigh with relief at the day's end. The empire may roar outside, but inside the fire hums quietly, steady as a heartbeat. Isn't it calming to see how the vastness of history always folds back into the same rituals? Meals shared, warmth gathered, and laughter rising gently in the night? As the 1870s deepen, the Victorian era glows in its prime, confident and proud. Yet already shadows stir at the edges, loss, unrest, and change waiting in the years ahead. Still, the table remains set, the kettle still hums, and the calm of daily life carries all gently forward. The Victorian era moves deeper into the 1870s, a time of both pride and quiet uncertainty. The empire stretches wide, the Queen's rule feels steady, and the hum of industry grows ever louder. Yet beneath all the grandeur, it is the small scenes. Families at supper, markets alive with colour, the soft glow of lamplight, that carry the truest rhythm of the age. Picture London at dusk. The fog drapes softly over rooftops, chimneys breathe smoke into the sky, and the River Thames glimmers faintly in the fading light. Along narrow streets, vendors call out, selling hot pies with thick, savoury fillings, paper cones of roasted chestnuts, and mugs of steaming tea. Children tug at sleeves, begging for a peppermint humbug or a licorice stick from a sweet jar that glows like treasure in the dim light. Isn't it gentle to imagine their smiles spreading as they unwrap the small sweet? The world's suddenly brighter. In working-class homes, meals are plain yet grounding. Bread remains the staple, sliced and shared at every meal. Breakfast might be porridge sweetened with treacle, lunch a potato with cheese, and supper a thick stew made from cabbage, onions, and scraps of meat. Sundays still bring the weekly roast, with potatoes browned to crisp perfection and a pudding steaming softly for dessert. For families whose lives were bound by long hours in mills and factories, that Sunday table became a sanctuary of warmth and laughter. In middle-class parlours, the meals are steadier and a touch more varied. Picture a supper table with roast chicken, peas simmered in butter, mashed potatoes, and a custard pudding to close. Lamps glow on the polished wood, the fire hums gently in the grate, and the family settles together, their talk drifting from work to books to the small joys of the week. Afterward, the kettle whistles again, tea poured into china cups, biscuits arranged on plates. The rituals repeat softly, soothing in their familiarity. For the wealthy, dinners remain spectacles of abundance. Imagine a banquet with soups rich with cream, fish dishes seasoned with herbs, joints of roast carved before guests, and fruits from distant lands arranged like jewels on silver trays. Conversation fills the air as music floats gently from a piano. Yet even in such glittering halls, the heart of the meal is still the same as in every cottage. The comfort of food shared, voices mingling, warmth rising. The railways carry food into new rhythms too. Families travelling pack baskets with sandwiches of cold meat, boiled eggs and cakes, sharing bites as the countryside flashes past. At stations, vendors sell pies, buns and tea strong enough to cut through the chill. Isn't it soothing to picture? The quiet joy of unwrapping a sandwich while the train rattles, the world moving swiftly beyond the window. Street life hums with sweetness. Markets buzz with gingerbread, candied nuts, and slabs of toffee pulled golden and firm. Ice cream carts ring their bells in summer, and children rush forward, their coins buying cones that melt too quickly in warm hands. Even the poorest found comfort in a small bite of sugar, a moment of sweetness softening the edge of long days. Step softly now into an English evening of the 1870s. Lamps flicker, their halos soft in the fog. Families gather close in kitchens and parlours, stew simmering, bread sliced, tea poured. Children giggle, dipping biscuits into cups, crumbs scattering on the table. Parents smile faintly, their weariness easing into calm as the fire crackles low. Outside, the world grows restless, but inside, the warmth of routine feels timeless. Isn't it calming to see how, in every corner of society, no matter the wealth or worry, comfort was always found in these quiet rituals: bread, tea, laughter and light. As the 1870s continue, the Victorian era seems unshakable, its confidence high. Yet soon, the weight of loss and the shadows of change will creep into its story. For now, though, we rest in the glow of lamps and the calm of family tables, steady as ever. The 1880s arrive with the Victorian era at its grandest height. The empire stretches across seas, inventions hum louder than ever, and cities swell with restless life. Yet even in all this grandeur, it is still the soft glow of lamplight, the taste of bread, and the ritual of tea that carry people gently through their days. Picture London on a chilly autumn afternoon. The fog hangs low, wrapping the streets in silver mist. Carriages clatter along, their lamps glowing faintly through the haze. Markets bustle, baskets of apples piled high, loaves stacked golden, and barrels of fish gleaming with seawater. Vendors sell hot pies with steam curling into the cool air, and roasted chestnuts crack open with warmth. Children press their noses against glass jars of humbugs and toffee, eyes wide as pennies roll between their fingers. Isn't it calming to imagine the sweetness of sugar softening the chill of fog? In working-class homes, meals remain simple but steady. Breakfast might be porridge thickened with treacle, lunch a potato with cheese or dripping, and supper a stew of onions, carrots and meat scraps. Families gather around fires, the room dim but warm, bowls passed hand to hand, tea poured into chipped mugs. On Sundays, roast still brighten tables, beef, lamb or chicken, with potatoes crisped in dripping and pudding steaming on the side. The meal carries a sense of celebration, a weekly promise of comfort. Middle-class families settle into routines polished with care. Picture a polished table laid neatly with roast chicken, green peas and custard pudding for dessert. Lamps glow softly, the fire hums low, and the family talks about books, news or music as they eat. Afterward, tea is served in delicate china cups, biscuits offered on a tray, and the comfort of order soothes the evening. In wealthier homes, dinners remain displays of grandeur. Imagine a long table lit with crystal chandeliers, courses arriving in elegant procession, soups, fish, roasts, puddings, fruits. Conversation rises with laughter, and music drifts softly from a piano. Yet even in this glittering setting, the heart is still the same. Food shared, warmth gathered, voices mingling. Street life hums with sweetness. At fairs, gingerbread hearts are decorated with icing, toffee is pulled into golden ribbons, and candied nuts glisten in paper cones. Ice cream carts roll along summer lanes, bells chiming, children rushing with pennies in hand. In winter, hot pies and roasted potatoes warm cold fingers, the scent mingling with chimney smoke. For a penny or two, even the hardest day could be softened with a small edible joy. Inventions bring new touches of flavour. Railways deliver fresher food to city tables, while cafes grow busier, their shelves lined with cakes, buns and strong tea. Imagine stepping into a small cafe on a foggy evening, the windows glowing warm against the mist. Inside, cups clink softly, cakes are sliced, and the hum of voices feels like a lullaby against the cold. Isn't it soothing to picture the calm found in such a place? The world hushed outside while warmth lingers within. Step softly into an English evening in the 1880s. The lamps glow golden in the fog, fires burn low in parlours, and families gather close. A pot of stew steams, bread is sliced, tea is poured. Children giggle with sticky smiles, clutching sweets from markets, while parents sip slowly, letting the day slip away. Outside, the empire stretches far and restless, but inside, peace folds itself around the glow of hearths and homes. Isn't it gentle to see how, in every class and corner, comfort was always found in the same rituals? Bread broken, tea poured, laughter rising softly. As the 1880s deepen, the Victorian era still glows with pride. Yet in the shadows, the Queen grows older, and the century edges closer to change. For now, though, we linger in the soft hum of lamps and the warmth of suppers, steady as ever. The 1890s unfold like the soft twilight of the Victorian era. The empire still stretches wide, the Queen still reigns, and the streets of London hum with restless life. Yet the glow feels gentler now, as though the long day of this age is nearing its close. Picture a summer fair in the countryside. Stalls line the green, their awnings flapping gently in the breeze. Children laugh as they clutch sticks of rock candy, their tongues stained bright pink and red. Vendors ladle out mugs of ginger beer, its fizz bubbling against the warm air. Nearby, roasted nuts crackle in pans, their sweet aroma carrying on the wind. Isn't it calming to imagine that laughter, mixing with the hum of fiddles, the taste of sugar lingering in the evening light? In working-class homes, the meals remain plain but steady. Breakfast is porridge or bread spread with dripping, lunch is cheese or a baked potato, and supper is stew thickened with carrots, cabbage, and whatever scraps can be spared. On Sundays, the roast still shines, a chicken or beef joint with potatoes roasted golden, gravy poured thick and the pudding to follow. Families gather close around fires, their laughter filling narrow rooms even as the city outside grows louder. In middle-class homes, routines settle into familiar elegance. Imagine a dining room lit by oil lamps, a polished table set with roast lamb, peas simmered with butter, and custard pudding for dessert. After supper, the kettle sings softly, tea poured into china cups, biscuits stacked neatly on plates. Children dip their biscuits, parents talk of books or travels, and the fire hums steadily in the grate. Life feels ordered, comfortable, and calm. For the wealthy, dining still gleams with grandeur. Long tables stretch beneath chandeliers. Dishes arrive one after another. Rich soups, fish with delicate herbs, joints of roast, puddings piled with cream and fruit. Candles glow, crystal glasses clink, and music drifts from a piano in the background. Yet even here, beneath the silver and sparkle, it is the familiar comfort of gathering and sharing that anchors the evening. The streets of London hum with their own flavours. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper are eaten quickly by lamplight, their steam rising into the fog. Candy stalls gleam with humbugs, peppermints and toffee, their jars glowing like treasure. In summer, ice cream carts roll through neighbourhoods, bells chiming, children rushing with coins clutched tightly. Even the poorest find joy in these small sweets, the taste of comfort bright against long days. Inventions continue to shape daily life. Railways deliver fresh food more quickly, shops sell canned goods and packaged treats, and cafes become gathering places for tea, buns, and quiet talk. Imagine stepping into a small cafe on a rainy evening, windows glowing against the mist. Inside, cups clink softly, cake is sliced, and the world outside fades into nothing more than a distant hum. Isn't it soothing to picture that warmth wrapping gently around you, steady as a lullaby? Step softly now into an English night of the 1890s. Lamps glow faintly in fog, fires burn low in parlours, and families gather in their small or grand rooms. Bread is sliced, tea is poured, sweets are shared. Children laugh with sticky fingers, parents smile quietly, and the hum of the city fades into calm. Isn't it gentle to see how, even in the final stretch of this long reign, comfort was always found in the same places? Bread, tea, fire, and laughter? As the 1890s pass, Queen Victoria herself grows older, her reign steady but waning. The century prepares to turn, and with it the Victorian era will close. But for now, we rest in its twilight glow, carried softly by its quiet rituals. The Victorian era edges gently into its last years, and though the empire still stretches far, the Queen herself grows frail, and the nation feels the hush of time settling over it. Yet daily life continues in its steady rhythms, meals cooked, tea poured, and laughter rising from tables where families gather. Picture London on a crisp winter morning in the late 1890s. Frost glitters along rooftops, chimneys exhale smoke into the pale sky, and the breath of horses steams as carriages roll over cobblestones. Street vendors huddle near fires, selling roasted chestnuts in paper cones, hot pies with thick gravy, and mugs of steaming tea that warm cold hands. Children tug scarves tighter, their eyes fixed on glass jars of peppermint sticks, humbugs, and striped candy canes glowing faintly in shop windows. Isn't it gentle to imagine their delight as a sweet melts slowly on the tongue, softening the bite of winter? In working-class homes, meals remain simple but steady. Bread and porridge begin the mornings, potatoes or cheese fill midday, and stews rich with cabbage, onions, and scraps of meat anchor the evenings. On Sundays, roasts still bring joy, beef browned crisp, potatoes golden, and pudding sweetened with treacle or custard. Families crowd close around fires, bowls passed hand to hand, laughter rising even as rooms remain small and dim. In middle-class parlours, meals are polished with quiet order. Imagine a dining table set with roast chicken, peas, mashed potatoes, and apple pie for dessert. Oil lamps glow softly, curtains drawn against the cold, and the fire hums in the grate. Afterward, tea is poured into delicate china, biscuits are passed, and books or newspapers are read aloud. The world outside may rush with change, but inside, calm settles steady as a heartbeat. For the wealthy, dining continues to gleam with grandeur. Picture a banquet beneath glittering chandeliers, soups rich with cream, fish dressed with herbs, roasts carved at the table, puddings piled high with cream and fruit. Candles flicker, glasses clink, and voices blend in laughter as piano notes float faintly from another room. Yet beneath the silver and crystal lies the same comfort found everywhere. A meal shared, warmth gathered, time marked softly by food and company. Street life carries its own flavours of comfort. Fairs brighten winter nights with gingerbread hearts, candied nuts, and toffee pulled golden and glossy. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper send steam into the fog, eaten quickly by workers heading home. In summer, ice cream carts ring their bells, children racing eagerly, their cones dripping sweet cream onto cobblestones. Even the poorest could sometimes find a moment of joy in a penny sweet, a tiny escape from the long hum of labour. Inventions bring new touches of ease. Railways deliver food more swiftly, cafes glow with tea and cakes, and shops fill with packaged goods that make kitchens more varied. Imagine stepping into a cafe on a frosty evening, the windows misted with warmth. Inside, cups clink, the smell of buns and cakes fills the air, and the hum of voices feels as soothing as a lullaby against the chill. Isn't it calming to picture yourself there, safe and warm while the fog presses softly against the glass? Step softly now into an English evening of the 1890s. Lamps glow faint through fog, fires burn low in cottages and parlours, and families settle at tables. Bread is sliced, tea poured, pudding spooned warm onto plates. Children laugh with sticky fingers, parents smile faintly, and the day closes in comfort. Outside, the Queen's reign nears its end, but inside, the steady rituals of food and warmth carry on, as they always have. Isn't it soothing to see how, even as eras end and centuries turn, life still anchors itself in the same gentle rhythms, bread broken, tea poured, laughter rising in lamplight. As the century closes, so too does the Victorian era. Soon, the Queen's long reign will end and a new age will begin. But for now, we rest in its twilight, glowing softly in the calm of daily rituals. The turn of the century arrives, and with it, the Victorian era moves gently toward its final farewell. Queen Victoria has reigned longer than anyone imagined, her figure now a symbol of endurance itself. But even as the world waits for change, daily life continues to hum with the familiar comforts of food, fire, and family. Picture London in the final winter of 1900. The fog hangs thick along the streets, gas lamps glowing faintly like halos in the mist. Carriages creak along cobblestones, their wheels wet with drizzle. Vendors warm their hands over coal braziers, selling roasted chestnuts that crack open with sweet steam, pies bubbling with gravy, and mugs of tea poured into tin cups. Children huddle in scarves, their eyes wide as they choose striped sticks of candy from glowing jars and sweet shops. Isn't it gentle to imagine the soft crunch of sugar under their teeth, carrying joy into the cold night? In working-class homes, meals remain steady and humble. Bread is sliced thick for breakfast, sometimes dipped in broth or spread with dripping. Potatoes and cabbage carry families through midday, and stews fill evenings with the scent of onions and carrots simmering in iron pots. Sundays still bring their treasured roast. beef browned, potatoes crisp, gravy ladled rich and warm, and pudding to finish. Around those tables, laughter rises above weariness, and for a little while the hardships of long work fade. In middle-class homes, meals glow with order and comfort. Imagine a polished table set with roast chicken, bowls of peas, bread rolls, and custard pudding for dessert. Oil lamps shine on tidy curtains, the fire burns steady, and the family sits close, their talk turning to books, news, or the latest inventions. After dinner, the kettle whistles softly, tea poured into porcelain cups, biscuits arranged neatly, and the calm of routine settles deep into the night. In wealthier halls, dining is still a display of grandeur. Long tables sparkle with crystal glasses and polished silver, while courses of soup, fish, roast and dessert follow in slow procession. Fruits from distant lands, puddings laced with cream, and delicate cakes close the meal, all beneath the glow of chandeliers and the drift of piano notes. Yet even here, amid all the silver and silk, the core is the same as in every cottage. Food shared, voices joined, warmth steady. Street life sings its own song of flavour. Fish and chips wrapped in paper steam into the damp air. Gingerbread hearts, candied nuts, and toffee shine at stalls, their sweetness lifting spirits. In summer, ice cream carts ring their bells, children chasing eagerly, coins clutched tight in mittened hands. Even the poorest could sometimes taste joy in a penny sweet, proof that comfort can be carried in the smallest bite. Inventions add new textures to life. Railways speed goods across the nation, bringing fresher fruit and fish to city markets. Cafes welcome visitors with tea, buns, and slices of cake, their windows glowing warm against cold nights. Imagine stepping inside one such cafe at the turn of the century, the clatter of cups, the hum of voices, and the smell of sugar and tea wrapping you in gentle calm. Isn't it soothing to picture yourself there, safe from the fog outside, the night softened by warmth? Step softly now into an English evening of 1900. Fires burn low in parlours, lamps glow gently, and families gather close. Bread is cut, stew is ladled, tea is poured. Children's laughter rises with crumbs on their lips. Parents sigh as the day's burdens drift away. Outside, the Queen's reign nears its close, but inside, life hums on in its quiet rituals. Isn't it calming to see how even as an age ends, the heart of life remains unchanged? Bread broken, tea poured, laughter rising gently in the glow of the hearth. Soon, the Victorian era will close, and a new century will open its doors. But for now, we linger in its last soft hours, letting the warmth of its everyday moments steady us. The final days of Queen Victoria's reign carry with them the hush of farewell. By 1901, the Queen has grown old and frail, her long rule stretching across generations. For many, she's the only monarch they have ever known. The empire pauses in quiet, and yet daily life continues its steady heartbeat. Meals shared, tea poured, and laughter echoing in small rooms. Picture London on a grey January afternoon. The bells of churches toll softly, their sound drifting across the city like a sigh. Shops close their shutters, streets fall quieter, and people move with hushed voices. At Buckingham Palace, the Queen's final moments arrive. When news spreads of her passing, families gather at their tables in silence. Bread is sliced, tea is poured, and for a moment the entire nation seems wrapped in mourning. Isn't it calming to picture that hush? Millions of homes united by one soft silence? In working-class cottages, the rituals remain steady. Porridge warms mornings, bread and cheese carry midday, and soups or stews fill the evenings. On Sundays, roasts continue, though even the cheer of potatoes and puddings feels dimmed by grief. Yet, as children nibble humbugs and laugh softly despite the mood, parents smile faintly, reminded that even in sorrow, life insists on sweetness. In middle-class parlours, morning is marked by quiet restraint. Tables are still set neatly, roast lamb, peas, bread rolls, and custard pudding. But conversation is gentler, and the piano remains silent. Curtains hang drawn, oil lamps glow dimmer, and the fire hums quietly. Still, tea is poured, biscuits are offered, and the comfort of ritual steadies hearts. In wealthy homes, morning is cloaked in ceremony. Black drapes cover dining halls, but the courses remain: soups, fish, roasts, puddings, fruits, served with solemn dignity. Crystal glasses clink softly, voices lower to whispers, and piano keys rest untouched. Even amid grandeur, grief is felt in the hush between spoon and plate, in the silence that lingers at the end of the meal. Street life slows, though flavors remain. Vendors still sell pies steaming with gravy, roasted chestnuts in paper cones, and fish and chips wrapped in newspaper. Yet their voices are softer, the city subdued. Sweet shops stay open, but even children's laughter feels hushed, their treats savoured quietly as the fog thickens around them. Step softly now into an English evening in early 1901. Lamps glow faintly in the mist, fires burn low in parlours, and families sit close together. A pot of tea is poured, bread is broken, pudding spooned softly onto plates. Parents and children speak in murmurs, the glow of hearths softening their grief. Outside, the Queen's long reign has ended, but inside, life hums onward in its quiet rituals. Isn't it soothing to see how, even at the close of such a vast and glittering era, comfort was found? The Victorian era has ended, but its spirit lingers in every lamplight, every cup of tea, every loaf shared at tables across the land. And as the Edwardian dawn begins to rise, the memory of this long age rests gently in the warmth of its rituals. The Victorian era may have officially ended with Queen Victoria's passing in 1901, yet its spirit lingers like the afterglow of a long fire. For decades, her reign shaped homes, meals, and even the way families gathered around tables. To understand its legacy, we drift back once more into the quiet corners of daily life, where comfort was always found in the simplest rituals. Picture a modest cottage kitchen in the late 19th century. The fire glows in the grate, an iron pot bubbling with stew. The smell of onions, carrots, and cabbage fills the room, blending with the faint scent of coal. A child dips bread into the pot, steam curling up against their smile. The parents sip tea from chipped mugs, their weariness melting into the warmth. Isn't it soothing to picture that small moment of peace? The hum of a fire, the taste of bread, the soft laughter of family? In middle-class parlours, the scene carries a touch of polish. A roast chicken sits proudly at the centre of the table, flanked by bowls of peas and potatoes. Custard pudding waits nearby, sweet and creamy. Oil lamps glow warmly on polished wood, curtains drawn against the fog outside. After supper, tea is poured into china cups, biscuits stacked neatly, and books are read aloud as the fire hums gently. The world beyond the windows may roar with trains and industry, but inside, calm holds steady. In wealthier homes, the picture is grander but no less grounded in ritual. Banquets gleam with candlelight and silver, but at their core they still anchor families in shared food and gentle company. Imagine crystal glasses raised, spoons dipping into rich soups, roasts carved with precision, and puddings brought forth in triumph. Even amid grandeur, the soft joy of eating together hums through the room. Street life too carried the flavours of the age. Picture narrow London lanes, their fog lit by gas lamps. Vendors call out, selling hot pies dripping with gravy, roasted chestnuts steaming in paper cones, and fish and chips wrapped in newsprint. Children crowd sweet shops, their pennies buying humbugs, toffees, and licorice sticks. Summer brings ice cream carts, bells chiming, while winter fills the air with the scent of gingerbread and sugared nuts. Isn't it gentle to imagine how a single sweet bought for a farthing could brighten a child's entire day? The railways carried these rituals further still. Families travelling packed baskets of sandwiches, boiled eggs, and cakes, sharing bites as countryside blurred past their windows. At stations, vendors sold buns, pies, and tea strong enough to warm even the coldest journeys. Cafes in the cities became havens of calm, their windows glowing against misty evenings, their shelves lined with buns, cakes, and steaming cups of tea. Step inside, and the hum of voices, the clink of cups, and the smell of sugar created a lullaby for weary travellers. Step softly now into a Victorian evening somewhere in the 1890s. The lamps glow faintly through fog, The fire burns low, and families gather close. A pot of stew is ladled, bread is sliced, tea is poured. Children's laughter rises, parents smile faintly, and the hum of the outside world fades. The empire may stretch wide, the queen may sit heavy in her palace, but the heart of the era beats here, in small rooms glowing with firelight. Isn't it calming to see how, through every change, industry, invention, empire, the essence of life was held in these steady moments? Food, warmth, family and laughter. The Victorian era is gone now, yet its memory lingers. And as the new century begins, its echo will shape kitchens, parlours and tables for years to come. Though the Victorian era is closed with the Queen's passing, its memory lingers like the steady warmth of a fire long after the flames have faded. To many, the habits formed under her reign continue unchanged. Meals at familiar hours, tea poured faithfully, and the soft glow of lamps marking the close of every day. Picture a quiet London street in the early years of the new century. Gas lamps still line the cobblestones, though whispers of electric light have begun to appear here and there. Horses clatter past with carriages, vendors call softly from corners, and the air smells faintly of coal smoke mixed with roasting chestnuts. Children crowd sweet shops, their eyes wide at jars of humbugs, toffees, and striped peppermint sticks. Isn't it soothing to imagine their hands sticky with sugar, their laughter cutting through the fog like bells? In working-class homes, meals remain the same as they were for decades. Porridge fills bowls in the morning, bread and cheese sustain the day, and stews warm the evenings. Families huddle close around their fires, their cottages small but filled with the comfort of routine. On Sundays, the roast still brightens the week. Beef or mutton if fortune allows, potatoes browned in dripping, and pudding sweetened with treacle. For many, this single meal feels like a holiday, a chance to laugh and breathe more easily. In middle-class parlours, supper is polished but homely. Picture a dining table lit by oil lamps, roast chicken or lamb at its centre, with peas, carrots and mashed potatoes on the side. Custard pudding or apple pie ends the meal, soft and warm. Afterward, tea is poured into china cups, biscuits are served neatly, and the family gathers in the glow of the fire. The father may read aloud, the mother may knit, and children listen with wide eyes, the night humming gently around them. In wealthier homes, grandeur remains, though the Queen's absence has hushed the sparkle. Long tables are still set with crystal, silver and candlelight. Courses served in careful order. Soups, fish, roasts, puddings, fruits. Guests sip wine, voices rise and fall, and piano notes drift faintly in the background. Yet beneath the finery, the essence remains the same. A meal shared, warmth gathered, time softened. Street life continues its symphony of flavour. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper steam into the cool air. Pies bubble with gravy at carts. Roasted chestnuts warm cold fingers, and fairs offer gingerbread hearts, candied nuts and ribbons of golden toffee. Ice cream carts roll in summer, their bells chiming while winter fills streets with sugared almonds and warm drinks. Isn't it calming to picture how such small tastes carry joy into lives burdened by long work? The railways too carry Victorian traditions into a new century. Passengers unwrap sandwiches of cold meat, sip from flasks of tea, and share cakes wrapped in paper. At stations, vendors sell buns, pies, and mugs of steaming cocoa. Cafes hum steadily, their windows glowing against fog, their shelves stacked with cakes, biscuits, and tea. Step inside and the clink of cups, the murmur of voices, and the smell of sugar create a lullaby of comfort for weary travellers. Step softly now into an English evening, at the close of the Victorian age, but before the Edwardian dawn fully blooms. Lamps glow faintly, fires burn low, and families gather. Bread is sliced, tea poured, pudding shared. Children laugh, parents sigh, and the weight of the outside world fades in the glow of the hearth. Isn't it gentle to see how, even as centuries turn and rulers pass, life finds its calm in these steady rituals, bread, tea, laughter and light? The Victorian era may have ended, but its memory lingers quietly in every cup, every loaf, every lamp glowing against the mist. Even after Queen Victoria's passing, her age lingers in the habits of the people. The new century has begun, but many still live with the rhythms, comforts, and rituals shaped during her reign. The Victorian way of life does not vanish overnight. Instead, it drifts gently onward, carried by the hum of kitchens, the glow of lamps, and the steady pour of tea. Picture a market street at the very end of the 19th century. Stalls crowd close together, their colours bright against the grey stones. Baskets overflow with apples, pears, and plums, while bakers arrange golden loaves in neat stacks. The smell of fried fish and vinegar floats from carts, and children dart between the stalls clutching coins, their eyes fixed on jars of humbugs and sticks of licorice. Isn't it soothing to imagine the gentle buzz of such a market, its warmth rising against the damp fog? In working-class homes, meals are plain but cherished. Bread and porridge greet mornings, cheese or potatoes carry the afternoons, and hearty stews close the day. On Sundays, the ritual roast still reigns supreme, meat, potatoes, and gravy filling bellies, with pudding to sweeten the end. For families who spent 6 days labouring in mills or factories, that Sunday meal felt like a feast, a pause in the march of time. In middle-class parlours, dinners continue with polished care. Imagine roast chicken at the centre of the table, peas and carrots neatly served, and custard pudding to follow. Oil lamps glow softly, curtains drawn against the fog, and conversation drifts toward books, politics, or family news. Afterward, tea is poured, biscuits are passed, and the calm of routine settles over the room like a blanket. In wealthier halls, grandeur remains, though it feels gentler now. Long tables shine with crystal and silver, candles flicker, and courses arrive with practiced rhythm. Soups, fish, roasts, puddings, and fruits from far-off colonies. Guests sip wine, music drifts faintly, and laughter echoes. Yet even amid such splendour, the essence is the same. A meal shared, warmth gathered, voices joined. Street life offers its own simple treasures. Fish and chips wrapped in paper steam into the night air, their smell rich and comforting. Roasted chestnuts warm cold hands, gingerbread hearts brighten fares, and golden toffee stretches into ribbons pulled by laughing vendors. In summer, ice cream carts ring their bells, children rushing with pennies clutched tight, while in winter, sugared almonds and steaming drinks comfort the chill. Isn't it gentle to imagine the taste of something sweet melting on your tongue as fog curls softly around the street lamps? The railways continue to shape how people eat. Families travelling unwrap sandwiches, sip tea from flasks, and share slices of cake. Station vendors bustle with pies, buns, and cocoa, while cafes glow warmly against the fog outside. Inside, cups clink, cakes are sliced, and the hum of voices feels like a lullaby for weary travellers. Step softly now into an English evening at the edge of the Victorian world. Fires burn in parlours, lamps glow through the mist, and families settle close. Bread is sliced, tea is poured, pudding shared. Children laugh with crumbs on their lips, parents sigh as the day fades gently away. Outside, the world grows restless with change, but inside, the rituals hold steady. Isn't it calming to see how, even at the very end of an age, comfort still rested in the same places? Bread, tea, firelight, and laughter. The Victorian era is remembered not only in grand events and inventions, but in these everyday moments that carried millions softly through their lives. As the 19th century slips fully into the 20th, the Victorian era feels like a memory still alive in every street and household. Though Queen Victoria is gone, her reign stretches behind like a long golden thread, woven through meals, rituals, and the small comforts that carried families day by day. Picture a foggy London evening, not long after the turn of the century. Gas lamps flicker softly, their halos glowing against the mist. Carriages roll by, though whispers of motor cars begin to stir. Vendors still call from corners, their trays steaming with pies and roasted chestnuts. Sweet shops glimmer with humbugs, toffees, and peppermint sticks, their glass jars glowing like treasure under lamplight. Isn't it soothing to imagine the warmth of those sweets in a child's hand, softening the damp chill of the fog? In working-class homes, suppers remain humble yet steady. A loaf of bread sits at the centre of the table, cut into thick slices. Stews simmer with carrots, cabbage, and bits of meat, filling the air with a scent that lingers long after bowls are emptied. On Sundays, roasts are still sacred, a chicken or beef joint browned crisp, potatoes golden, pudding steaming. Families lean close around their tables, laughter rising above weariness, the day marked by warmth. In middle-class parlours, meals carry a touch of polish. Picture roast lamb with mint, peas simmered in butter, and custard pudding served after. Lamps shine warmly on polished tables, curtains drawn, fires humming low. After dinner, tea is poured into china cups, biscuits offered neatly, and books or newspapers are read aloud as children nibble quietly. The night stretches calm and ordered, safe in its routine. In wealthy homes, grandeur lingers in every supper. Long tables gleam with crystal and silver, candlelight dancing in chandeliers. Courses arrive in careful rhythm, soups rich with cream, fish dressed with herbs, roasts carved with elegance, puddings crowned with cream and fruit. Conversation blends with laughter, piano notes drift faintly in the background, and the night glows with practiced beauty. Yet beneath all the shimmer, the essence is still the same. Food shared, time softened, comfort gathered. Street life hums with familiar flavour. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper warm cold hands, their vinegar scent sharp in the air. Gingerbread hearts and candied nuts brighten fares. Toffee stretches golden in vendors' hands. Summer brings the jingle of ice cream carts. Children racing forward, while winter fills streets with sugared almonds and steaming drinks. Isn't it gentle to picture how even the smallest treat could lift the weight of a long day? Railways continue to hum with life, carrying passengers and their simple meals across the country. Sandwiches of cold meat, flasks of tea, slices of cake, shared between families as the countryside blurs beyond the windows. At stations, vendors bustle, selling pies, buns and cocoa. In cities, cafes glow, their shelves stacked with cakes and biscuits, their voices humming soft like a lullaby for those seeking calm. Step softly now into a late Victorian evening, just before the Edwardian dawn takes hold. Fires burn low, lamps glow faint, and families gather around their tables. Bread is sliced, tea poured, pudding shared. Children giggle with crumbs on their lips, parents smile gently, and the day folds into quiet. Isn't it calming to see how, no matter how the world shifted, from steam engines to new machines, from horse carts to motor cars, the essence of life remained steady? Bread, tea, laughter and light. The Victorian era may be closing, but its memory lives on in the rituals it left behind. And as the new century grows louder, its echo will still hum softly in every home that gathers around a glowing hearth. As the Victorian era fades into memory, it leaves behind not only inventions, railways and grand empires, but the quiet fabric of daily life. What lingers most is not the roar of factories or the sparkle of palaces, but the softness of tea poured at twilight, bread broken at tables, and the glow of lamplight in fog. Picture a London street at dusk. The fog rolls low, gas lamps glow faintly, and carriages rattle past, their wheels splashing through puddles. Vendors call softly, selling hot pies with rich gravy, roasted chestnuts that warm cold hands, and mugs of steaming tea. Sweet shops gleam, their jars lined with humbugs, peppermints and toffees. Children press noses to glass, their breath fogging the windows as they dream of sugar. Isn't it soothing to imagine their delight, the sweetness of a penny treat softening the chill of night? In working-class homes, meals remain steady, shaped by necessity. Bread and porridge start the mornings, potatoes and cheese carry through the day, and stews warm the evenings. On Sundays, the roast still reigns, beef or chicken, potatoes browned in dripping, gravy poured thick and pudding to follow. Families gather around their tables, their laughter rising softly against the hum of fires. For them, these rituals mean more than grandeur. They're anchors against the weight of long days. In middle-class parlours, dinners carry polish but remain homely. A roast lamb might sit at the centre, peas and carrots on the side, custard pudding waiting for dessert. Oil lamps glow warmly, curtains hang drawn, and the fire hums steady. Afterward, tea is poured into china cups, biscuits passed neatly, and books or letters are read aloud. The calm of order folds gently over the evening. In wealthier homes, grandeur still shines in dining halls. Candles flicker in chandeliers, silver gleams and crystal catches the light. Soups, fish, roasts, puddings and fruits parade across tables, while conversation flows with laughter. Piano notes drift softly through the room, and the night glows with ceremony. Yet even here, the heart of it all remains familiar. The comfort of gathering, the joy of shared meals, the calm of time softened by food and company. Street life sings its own melody of flavors. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper steam into the cool air, their scent carried down crowded lanes. Gingerbread hearts, sugared nuts, and golden toffee brighten fares, while ice cream carts roll through summer streets with bells chiming. Even the smallest coin could buy sweetness, a penny's worth of joy melting on the tongue. Isn't it gentle to imagine how such small moments made life softer for so many? Railways continue their hum, carrying passengers and their simple meals across the land. Families unwrap sandwiches of cold meat, sip from flasks of tea, and share slices of cake as countryside fields pass in a blur. At stations, vendors bustle with pies, buns, and steaming cocoa. Cafes glow warmly, their shelves stacked with cakes and buns, their windows shining against fog. Inside, the clink of cups and the low hum of voices create a soothing rhythm for all who enter. Step softly now into an English evening shaped by Victorian memory. Fires glow in parlours, lamps flicker against curtains, and families sit close together. Bread is sliced, tea is poured, pudding is shared. Children giggle with sticky fingers, parents smile gently, and the outside world fades into mist. Isn't it calming to see how beyond all empire and invention, what truly endures are these small rituals, bread broken, tea poured, laughter rising in firelight? The Victorian era may be past, but its spirit still hums quietly in every cup of tea, every sweet shop window, every lamp glowing softly in the fog. The Victorian era, though ended by the Queen's passing, continues to echo in countless corners of daily life. The habits of food, the glow of firelight, the steady rhythm of tea at dusk, these are the threads that linger, woven deep into the fabric of homes across the land. Picture London on a misty morning. The Thames glimmers faintly, barges sliding slowly along its surface. Chimneys exhale smoke into the pale air, and the sound of vendors calling drifts through narrow lanes. A man sells hot eels, ladling them into bowls. Another offers roasted chestnuts in paper cones, their shells cracking with sweet warmth. Children gather at sweet shops, coins clutched tightly, their eyes bright as they choose toffees or striped sticks of peppermint. Isn't it soothing to imagine their laughter carrying across the fog, the sweetness softening the chill of the day? In working-class homes, the meals remain simple, yet steady as the tick of a clock. Porridge begins mornings, bread with cheese or dripping fills midday, and hearty stews anchor evenings. On Sundays, the roast remains sacred. Beef, potatoes, gravy and pudding marking the week's one bright feast. Families huddle close, firelight dancing across their faces, laughter rising above weariness. For them, these rituals are not just meals, but lifelines, grounding them in comfort. In middle-class parlours, the rhythm is familiar but polished. Picture a supper table with roast chicken, peas, carrots and mashed potatoes, followed by custard pudding. Lamps glow softly on polished wood, the fire hums gently, and conversation drifts to books, travels, and the news of the day. Afterward, tea is poured, biscuits are served, and the family gathers into calm. The night hums steady, anchored in routine. In wealthy homes, grandeur continues to sparkle. Imagine chandeliers scattering light across long tables dressed in crystal and silver. Courses arrive in order, soups rich with cream, fish seasoned with herbs, joints of roast, puddings topped with cream and fruits from distant colonies. Laughter flows with the wine, and piano notes drift faintly through gilded halls. Yet even amid such splendor, the heart remains the same, time marked by food, warmth, and voices joined together. Street life hums with its own delights. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper steam into cool air, the smell of vinegar sharp and comforting. At fairs, gingerbread hearts sparkle with sugar, candied nuts crunch sweetly, and golden toffee stretches in vendors' hands. Ice cream carts ring bells in summer, and in winter, hot pies and sugared almonds warm hands. Isn't it gentle to imagine how even the poorest could buy a moment of joy for a penny or two, tasting comfort in the middle of long labour? The railways still carry Victorian traditions into new days. Families unwrap sandwiches, sip tea from flasks, and share slices of cake as fields roll past outside. At stations, vendors bustle with pies and cocoa, their voices echoing against stone walls. In cities, cafes glow with warmth, their shelves stacked with buns and cakes, their windows misted by the heat within. Step inside and the clink of cups, the hum of voices, and the scent of tea feel like a lullaby against the fog. Step softly now into an English evening shaped by Victorian memory. Fires burn low, lamps glow faintly, and families gather around their tables. Bread is sliced, stew ladled, tea poured. Children chatter with sticky fingers, parents sigh into calm, and the day fades gently into night. Isn't it calming to see how the grandest era of empire is remembered not only in books and palaces, but in these smallest moments? Bread broken, tea poured, laughter rising in firelight. The Victorian world may be gone, but its memory lingers in every ritual, soft as fog, steady as a kettle's hum. As the memory of the Victorian era drifts further into the past, it still feels alive in the rhythm of homes, streets, and kitchens. Even in the years beyond 1901, people live with habits shaped by that long rain, tea in the evening, roasts on Sundays, and the glow of lamps softening foggy nights. Picture a London street in twilight. The lamps flicker golden halos through the mist, and the cobblestones glisten with damp. Vendors call softly, selling hot pies bubbling with gravy, roasted chestnuts sweet and warm, and mugs of steaming tea. Children press their noses against sweet shop windows, staring at humbugs, peppermint sticks, and toffees. Isn't it gentle to imagine their joy as the paper twist opens, sugar melting on their tongues, laughter rising into the fog? In working-class cottages, suppers remain humble yet steady. A loaf of bread is placed in the centre of the table, cut thick and passed hand to hand. A pot of stew bubbles with cabbage, onions, and scraps of meat, its scent rich in the small room. On Sundays, roasts mark the week's high point. Meat browned crisp, potatoes golden, gravy thick, pudding sweet to close. Families huddle close around the fire, voices warm, the weariness of labour softened by ritual. In middle-class parlours, the rhythm is polished but familiar. Imagine roast lamb, peas simmered in butter, and custard pudding served after. Lamps glow softly, curtains drawn, and the fire hums low. After dinner, tea is poured into china cups, biscuits stacked neatly on a tray, and the family gathers in calm. Conversation drifts toward books, news, or the steady hum of daily life, while the night folds itself in warmth. In wealthier homes, grandeur lingers with ease. Long tables gleam with silver and crystal, chandeliers scatter light across polished wood. Courses arrive in slow order, soups rich with cream, fish dressed with herbs, roasts carved with precision, puddings layered with fruit and cream. Guests raise glasses, laughter rises with piano notes, and the night glows with practiced ceremony. Yet even here, beneath the glitter, the heart is still the same. Food shared, warmth gathered, comfort steady. Street life glimmers with simple joys. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper send up their savoury steam. Gingerbread hearts hang in stalls. Candied nuts crunch sweetly, and toffee stretches golden between the hands of vendors. Ice cream carts roll in summer, their bells chiming as children race with pennies, while winter brings sugared almonds and hot drinks steaming into frosty air. Isn't it soothing to picture how these small treats stitched joy into the days of millions? The railways carry this rhythm further still. Passengers unwrap sandwiches, sip tea from flasks, and share cake as fields pass outside their windows. Vendors bustle at stations selling pies and cocoa, their voices echoing across platforms. Cafes glow warmly, their shelves lined with buns and cakes, their windows misted with heat inside. Step into one and the clink of cups, the hum of voices, and the smell of sugar feel like a lullaby against the fog. Step softly now into an English evening still shaped by Victorian habits. Fires glow, lamps flicker, and families gather close. Bread is sliced, tea poured, pudding shared. Children chatter with sticky fingers. Parents sigh with relief, and the night folds gently around them. Isn't it calming to see how the memory of an age endures not in parades or palaces, but in these rituals, tea, bread, firelight, and laughter rising in the soft dark? The Victorian era may have ended, but it lives on quietly in the way people eat, drink, and gather. Its spirit hums like the steady whistle of a kettle, soft and enduring. The Victorian era has drawn to its close, yet its echo hums gently in kitchens, parlours, and streets. For more than 60 years it shaped not only empire and invention, but the quiet rituals that made daily life steady and sweet. Even as the Edwardian dawn begins, the memory of Victorian rhythms lingers, soft as fog, warm as lamplight. Picture a quiet evening in the countryside. The fields are dark beneath a pale moon, cottages glow faintly with the light of fires, and smoke curls upward into still air. Inside, a family gathers around their table. Bread is sliced thick, a stew of cabbage and onions warms the room, and mugs of tea are poured. Children giggle, dipping biscuits into their cups, while parents smile, their voices low, their burdens softening in the fire's glow. Isn't it calming to imagine that small circle of warmth, holding steady against the wide night? In towns and cities, the rhythm is much the same. Working-class families share humble stews and Sunday roasts. Middle-class parlours glow with roast dinners, puddings and tea poured into delicate china. Wealthy halls sparkle with silver crystal and courses laid in shining order. Yet in each of these homes, whether grand or modest, the essence is the same. Food shared, warmth gathered, laughter lifting the air. Street life continues its gentle music. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper warm cold fingers. Roasted chestnuts glow in the hands of children, and sweet shops glitter with humbugs and peppermint sticks. Gingerbread hearts and ribbons of golden toffee brighten fairs, while ice cream carts ring their bells in summer lanes. Isn't it soothing to see how even the poorest could find joy in a penny's worth of sugar, a small sweetness softening the weight of life? The railways hum their steady song, carrying travellers with baskets of sandwiches, flasks of tea and slices of cake. At stations, vendors sell pies, cocoa and buns to weary passengers. In cities, cafes glow warmly, their shelves stacked with cakes and biscuits, their windows fogged with heat. Inside, the clink of cups and the murmur of voices create a lullaby of calm against the busy world. Step softly now into the last glow of the Victorian era. Fires burn low, lamps flicker faint, and families gather close in cottages, parlours and halls. Bread is broken, tea poured, pudding shared. Children laugh with sticky smiles, parents breathe gently, and the night folds itself in comfort. Isn't it gentle to realise that the true story of the Victorian age lies not only in empires and inventions, but in these small timeless rituals, tea at dusk, bread at supper, laughter rising in the glow of lamplight. And as the era ends, its spirit carries forward. In every kettle's whistle, in every slice of bread passed across a table, in every laugh that warms the air, the Victorian world lives quietly on. And so, dear friend, we have drifted together through the entire story of the Victorian era. From its earliest days of smoky factories and crowded streets, to the golden height of empire, and finally to its soft twilight at the turn of the century, we have wandered gently through its rhythms. We have walked the foggy streets of London, hearing the calls of vendors and the laughter of children clutching sweets. We have stepped into humble cottages, where bread and stew warmed weary families. We have sat in middle-class parlours, where tea and biscuits soothed the night, and we have gazed at glittering halls, where chandeliers and silver sparkled above grand banquets. Through every scene, the true heart of the era was always the same. Food shared, warmth gathered, laughter rising gently in the glow of lamplight. That is the quiet legacy of the Victorian world. Not only its empire, inventions, or grandeur, but the small, steady rituals that gave people peace. As you drift now into rest, may these memories wrap around you like a blanket. Let the soft hum of firelight, the taste of bread and tea, and the laughter of children guide you into calm dreams. The Victorian era has closed, yet its spirit lingers in comfort, like the steady whistle of a kettle or the flicker of a lamp in the fog. If this gentle journey helped you unwind, you may softly tap like or subscribe, only if it feels right in your heart. And if you drifted off somewhere along the way, let me know below. Sweet dreams always. Good night, dear listener. Until we wander again in another story in another time.